Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Wowie kazowie. We're here. We're here at last.
Oh man, finally.
Didn't you miss us? Didn't you miss us?
It's probably been, 24 hours since the last podcast we released, if that.
If that. We have a problem, Tom. Hi, everyone.
We don't have a problem, Dave. We have a business.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Edge of Tomorrow.
Ed Jeff Tomorrow.
Isn't there someone named Edge?
Yeah, the wrestler.
Is this like if he was a robot?
Right, if he was
a robot,
or if he was from the future, he'd be Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that's what he should do.
I'm going to tell you a story. At first, it's going to sound ridiculous. But the longer I talk,
We have to find the keys.
the more rational it's going to appear.
I can't believe you found coffee.
Sugar, right?
Here.
Hold on. 3. You like 3.
How many times have we been here? How many times?
For me, it's been an eternity.
This was also Live, Die, Repeat because it had marketing or it had box office issues, right? And they rebranded it?
It did, yeah. This movie, despite being a critical hit and grossing not an insignificant amount of money, it hit almost 400 million. The problem was it cost almost 200, and apparently the marketing decided that some of the movie's failure to gain widespread traction was because it has a kind of a bland title.
Right. And so they retitled it. It's a weird conclusion for a studio to make, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, Live, Die, Repeat was in all of that was like its slogan.
Yeah.
So they just kind of
made it bigger.
Yeah, they just sort of leaned into it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, so it's Thursday. So we have this is from our Patreon. One of our Patreon subscribers, Lef. Lef. Thank you so much for this one.
Indeed.
This felt like it was going to be a breeze, this movie.
Yeah.
I hadn't watched it. I think I scanned it for an article, but I haven't watched it since it was in theaters. What about you?
I didn't see it in theaters, but I have not watched it since 2014 when it came out. No.
Okay. What did you think about it now that you've distanced yourself from it?
I still really enjoy this movie.
Okay.
I think it's really good.
I think the exact opposite, Tom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
This watch, I was like, I think this is a bad movie.
Really?
Yeah. I have reasons. It's not just that I didn't like it.
I think it has a third act problem, but
I think it has a first act problem too.
Okay.
I think it's badly written. I think the characters make no sense. They're extremely illogical and weird. They do whatever the plot serves. And the ending completely takes away its own internal logic to make the hero win.
Yeah, the ending is this movie's biggest problem.
Yeah. But like just at the beginning, they have this plot where Tom Cruise is a military spokesperson who is then like told to he's like passed off to the British command. Brendan Gleeson. And Brendan Gleeson tells him, we want you on the front lines.
Yeah.
And already that's weird.
Well, he wants him on the front lines filming. Like making a PR video.
Yeah, that's not that weird, but already it's a little weird. And Tom Cruise is like, very admitting, like, I'm a coward. I don't actually fight. So he tries to blackmail Brendan Gleeson. Mm-hmm. And the blackmail is just, I'm going to like publicly blame you if this goes wrong. Like, it's not like I have information on you. It's like, I'm going to campaign against you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a weak blackmail.
Yeah, it's a very soft blackmail.
Yeah, and Brendan Gleeson has him arrested, but he doesn't just do that. He kidnaps him.
Yes, he does.
And he just gives him to the American army, puts him on a training camp, and says...
with false charges.
Yes. Here's question number 1. He's the military spokesperson. They show him on TV.
Yes.
Speaking up. So, like, it's very weird no one recognizes him.
Right, yeah.
And that's the first thing where I was like, why not just make him an actual deserter? Like, just make him a deserter. And that's where his story begins, you know? Because that's one of the weirdest fucking things in this movie is the fact that, like, Bill Paxton and everybody, he never says, like, check TV. Like, check this name. The name of who I am. Look him up. You'll see that he's the military spokesperson, who is me. You can see him on TV, and he looks like me.
And he looks like me. It's a guy that has my face because he's me.
Because he's me. You're trusting that piece of paper. I'm telling you, like, it's very weird, right?
Yeah. I think the idea was to have him be sort of a guy that's not just like a deserter would be. I think they wanted him to be a guy that not only was a coward, but had zero training or experience.
Right. They could have done a draft where it's like it begins with like a hardcore, where like the military is kind of dystopian.
He would have he would have gone through more training than just a single day before the mission, though. If he was drafted,
he could have deserted his training or something. I'm saying there's a lot better. You're right. Is that it has to be more than just as a deserter, I guess.
Right. Well,
but
and also
they wanted an end result, and so they built something to get them there. But the thing they built didn't make any sense.
It's very extreme, yeah.
And there's a lot of people acting really, really like insane at him. When the first time he tries to tell people like I've been Groundhog Day'd, he predicts all these things in front of them. Mm-hmm. And then they do a hard cut to them having gagged him.
Yeah.
I think they did the hard cut because there's no good reason they would have gagged him.
Well, they do it's a comedy cut. It's a comedy edit.
But it also makes no sense.
Well, I mean, it makes as much sense as anything. Like, honestly, if some guy was coming in there and was just telling you, it would take. This is, I think we talked about.
He's predicting the future. Like he's saying what's going to happen in the room.
He's gently predicting the future.
Sure.
It's. I think we talked about it in. Like Hypecast when we were talking about the trailer to You Should Have Left, where it's like a lot of these plots depend on people knowing that they're in a movie. But like if you didn't know you were in a movie, you would never, ever, ever accept the idea that someone was being Groundhog Day'd, regardless of what they told you.
Right. He might be put in a psychiatric ward. Because that's the other thing is they tie him up, basically. They gag him and make him go. They're joking about how he's going to die.
Yeah, because
they don't tell him where his safety is. They're executing him.
Yes, exactly.
But that's really fucking weird considering that these soldiers are later going to be our hero. Are part of the heroes. The army seems to just be the regular military.
Yeah.
Like if they had pushed that this is a dystopian military because of the alien invasion and they did this all the time or something like that, but it's like everybody is so immediately aggressive to him and gives him no leeway that it felt it like, and then the fact that he doesn't think to try to actually prove who he is in a very easy way. It felt like a situation that could have been easily avoided.
Well, I mean,
from the start,
the idea that it's the entire world is being threatened by an alien force. Like everybody's life is in danger, the entire world's in danger, and they think he's a deserter.
Right, and they are like executing him in an extremely expensive mech suit.
Yeah, that's true. But like
that he has ammunition on, and they think he thinks he can see the future. Like he's a liability. That's what I'm saying is that they're not only endangering him, they're endangering themselves. Like you wouldn't put that person into battle.
He tries to bring that up at one point too.
Yeah.
It's extreme. At one point somebody would probably be like, well, we shouldn't put this guy in the battlefield. Let's just throw him in the brig.
Right, and like the entire setup again hinges on him not like easily proving who he is, and so it started in this way where I'm like, well, none of this makes sense to me. Like it all feels like nonsense.
Well, I mean, if you were a low-level grunt or even a master sergeant like Bill Paxton is, do you think you would recognize the Army spokesperson on site?
I don't know. I think that's doing the work for the film. If the film had made it, but again, everybody.
I mean,
there's so many people, and again, even if they didn't,
I'm a person who pays very close attention to the news and what's going on and which government official is which. I couldn't tell you who any branch of the military spokesman is.
But even if he didn't, Tom Cruise could prove it. He could say, but he can prove it. He can go to, even if they don't recognize him, he can say, I'm the military spokesman. If you spend 2 seconds looking up who that is, you'll see that it's me.
Sure.
Tom Cruise, like even in that scenario where no one recognizes him, he can still prove his identity pretty quickly. Like he's the military spokesman. Like that's his job. Like there's a picture of him. Like if you were to look that up, he would have a file. He would have a profile. He would have, he would be on the news. You just Google him. You just Google the name.
Yeah.
So like it just seemed very silly that he didn't even try that. That the movie didn't even try to like explain that.
Well, they
explained it away.
He tries to get a phone to call his commanding officer. Bill Paxton's like, no, there's no communication going in or out. There's probably not a computer with Google on that.
I guess
on that little staging area. So I don't know. I mean,
it's a stretch. It's a big stretch, and I couldn't get past. I couldn't accept that at the beginning, that they were being so illogically aggressive about we're going to you just showed up on our base. We've been told you're a deserter. You're saying you're someone else. Instead of putting you in the brig or the psych ward, we're just going to throw you into battle. And Tom Cruise just sort of like barely tries to prove his identity. Like it's weird that that's not the only thing he's trying to do.
Well, it also stops mattering after about 15 minutes.
Yes, but it's where the movie starts.
It's where the movie starts, sure, and it basically just...
It's not my only complaint with the movie, Tom.
Sure.
It's just I think the movie is a series of things like this. When he first goes on the battlefield and he sees... I don't know the character's name. The lady.
Rita.
And Emily... Oh, what is it?
Rita,
thank you. Their first interaction is she's fighting monsters, and then she stops, turns around, and just stares at him on the battlefield until she's killed from behind. And I was like, well, that's dumb.
Okay.
The first sequence is people getting killed from behind. People who, especially her, who's like supposed to be good, just getting immediately creamed from behind. And I thought that was very silly.
Well, I mean... The only reason she's good is the only reason she's the angel of Verdun is because she got hit with the same thing and was repeating Verdun over and over and over again. So she just memorized everything that was going to happen.
Right. So she's very good at fighting.
Yeah, she is.
Like they show that Tom Cruise becomes very good at fighting, and she doesn't look fucking. She stops on the battlefield to look at him for like 5 seconds and then gets creamed from behind. That's silly.
Well, it's a hero reveal too. It's the first time we see her, really.
Right. It's silly though. It's what she's doing, and that's my main complaint with this movie is that it's a lot of cool stuff. Like it's great battle sequences, but the plot is nonsense, and the characters are kind of nonsense a lot of the time. All right, here's the scene that I think is what sums it up to me is when. Near the end, he rounds up the soldiers, and they say, why would we follow you? And he says, I don't expect you to. I expect you to follow her. And then she comes out. Now, this isn't a plot hole, but it means she's just been waiting for her cue backstage.
Yeah.
And it's for a cool moment. But then when you rewind it and think about it, it means she was just hanging out, waiting for him to introduce her. It's a movie trope.
It's a movie thing, yeah.
But that's a really bad one. That's a really bad example. Because her character wouldn't like wait for that. It's very hammy, and this movie is in general like it's very, very, very dumb blockbuster Hollywood, to a point that like I thought it was bad because then at the very end they give you that ending where it doesn't make any sense.
The ending makes no sense. Yeah,
and they take away the entire film. So at that point, it's just nonsense after nonsense, followed by an ending that's so Hollywood that it rewrites its own film to give you the Hollywood ending.
Yeah. Like I said, I think the ending is this movie's biggest problem. But going back to that scene, you can kind of justify the moment a little bit because he's laying a shitload on these guys and J Company. Mm-hmm. By telling them like their entire history and shit like that. And she's the most decorated soldier. She's very, very famous. She's on posters all over the city, all over the world. I think it's just like they don't want to distract them with her quite yet.
It's not a plot hole though. It's just bad writing.
Well, I don't know.
It's just a cliche.
Yeah, it is a cliche, but I think it can be explained within the context of what's happening in the scene because he's trying to make them believe that he knows the future because he's lived it thousands of times. And once that has sort of like the ripples of that have sort of settled, then he introduces the most famous soldier in history to be like, yeah, I'm with him too. We should go and do this. Like it's still
he could have opened with her.
He could have. It's still cliche.
She just could have said, "Hey, I'm the most famous soldier. I have a mission for you guys," and they would have listened.
Yeah, probably. I'm just saying there is a way that you can think about it that doesn't make it totally crazy. That she's just waiting for him to finish his spiel before she comes out.
Yeah, it's just very cliche. It's all very
Sure.
And then, like, the ending, I couldn't get past the ending.
The ending is a problem. I can't even begin to decipher what the ending means.
Well, it can't mean anything because people. Should we describe this movie for people? Do we need?
I mean, I don't know. What minute are we at? We're already 20 minutes into this thing.
Yeah, I know.
It's just. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, it's a contemporary film. It's not necessarily even because we encounter some when he hits the all hope is lost point. It's right before the all hope is lost point. But when he's approaching his low point, he just fucks off and goes AWOL, doesn't even go to the battle and goes to a bar and drinks. We hear a bunch of old British guys talking about their dads and their uncles fighting in World War II, so we know it's not like in the future.
Right, you're right.
So
it's like nowish.
It's like next Friday future or something like that. The very, very near future. Aliens, a comet lands. There's an alien life force that spreads out from it, and it's conquering the world. Humans are trying to fight them. They have these cool battle suits they invented to fight them because the aliens move just entirely too fast for everything else. And we should talk about that at some point. But I think the alien design is very cool in this movie. I like the way that the aliens move is.
Oh yeah, the aliens are great.
Yeah, they're really scary. How fast they are. So Tom Cruise gets, like we have already laboriously described, gets essentially shanghaied or conscripted into service. He dies, but he kills a bigger version of the alien that bleeds all over him as it dies, and then he realizes that. Now, every time he dies, it just resets the day, and it's revealed that that's the way this organism works. It's actually really just one organism that spreads itself out through several drones, and it has the ability to reset time, and that's how it's crushing the world's militaries. Is because it's going through what Tom Cruise is going through. Is it constantly loses and then just adjusts its strategy, resets the day until it gets it right and wins. So
to the specific, like the general aliens, right?
Right. The one main alien. Oh wait, the alphas can do it too, but the alphas are linked to the Omega, and the Omega is where the power lies. Essentially, like it controls the reset. He meets Emily Blunt, who's this famous soldier who was the Angel of Verdun, and it turns out that the reason she won that battle is because she had the same thing happen to her, but she's since lost the power. He meets up with her. She believes him for obvious reasons. And they work together to essentially discover where the Omega is located so they can go there and kill it. They do so, but they both die in the process of killing it. But after he blows it up, like he sinks into its body. Okay, go ahead.
He lost his ability. Did you note that?
I did not note that yet, but he loses his ability.
The ability.
Yeah. So this is it for them. Rita gets beat to death by a monster.
Yeah.
He gets stabbed through the chest, but he blows up. He sets off some grenades and kills the Omega as he's dying, and its blood floats up into him. And then for some reason, that triggers a reset that puts him all the way back to the beginning of the day where he got conscripted. So he's just now landing in London before he's even tried to threaten to blackmail Brendan Gleeson. Right. So everything has reset except for the fact that he killed the Omega. The Omega is dead. They don't know why. They're just like, we saw an energy surge, but it's killed all the aliens.
And it died that day for some reason.
For some reason, it died that day, yeah. And then he still has his rank and everything. He just goes into the base and meets Rita, and she's like, who are you? And he laughs, and then that's the end of the movie. The ending makes no sense.
It also takes away what seemed to be the point of the film up until that point, which was that they're now going to actually sacrifice themselves, that there's no second chances. And this time they have to die for something. They've spent the movie casually dying. That the ending is, if they had just died, that would have been a way stronger ending.
I think this is based on a Japanese novel called All You Need Is Kill, and I believe that's how the novel ends.
Yeah, it feels hastily rewritten.
It's an extremely Hollywood ending that doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Here's another way it could have ended that was way better. If the alien brings them back, he does wake up on the helicopter, but the alien is still alive. And so what happened was the alien, in like a last-minute desperate move, just rewound the clocks as far as it could. And so he has to do it all over again. It would have been a frustrating ending, but it would have made sense. Instead, it felt like producers were in the room like, no, we can't have it like that. That's depressing. Or, oh, no, they can't die. It's Tom Cruise. It's in his contract. So they had to like somehow make him sacrifice himself, but also live and also win. And they do it by setting up very specific rules and then breaking all of them at the last minute.
Yeah. That, like I said, I really like this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. The ending is a problem.
That's why I don't think it's a good movie.
The ending doesn't make any sense.
It's not about, for me, it wasn't about liking or hating. It's that I think it's just it's a bad movie. It's a bad movie.
I disagree.
I'm not saying it's a movie you can't like. I'm saying it's a broken movie. The script is a mess. The plot is, there's that thing with the transponder too, where like there's the scientist in the basement who made this transponder for blood to like, it's to detect blood. And then, so the idea is we have to you inject this in an alien, and then you can use that to detect it's like the nest. It's the Omega. And he says, I built this, and then I was promptly demoted for it. And it was like, why? Why would they be like, oh, well, you're getting demoted? And then Brendan Gleeson just has it in his safe. It wasn't destroyed. Like, that's so... All of that is like, why? Why does Brendan Gleeson still have it? Did they think it was nonsense? Did they fire him or demote him because are they working for the aliens? Like, why are they so incredibly incompetent that when a scientist came to them and said, I have a new device that can help us win, they were like, get out of here, you. I'm going to just put this in my safe. Like, why? Because it felt like the movie needed it to happen. They needed them to get the thing, and so these things needed to happen. Like it's not well written. That isn't to say it isn't fun. The battle scenes are definitely fun. I think it gets kind of a little forgettable at the end, but that's personally me. But I don't think it's. And this is Ralph McQuarrie. Like, this is the writer of The Usual Suspects. This is the writer of
Chris
McQuarrie. Sorry, which one's Ralph McQuarrie?
Ralph McQuarrie's the one who designed all the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. This is a writer that I think is good.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Chris McQuarrie came on to do punch-ups and stuff because he's sort of attached to Tom Cruise. So
that's true. I think this movie, it's in terms of pre-production, it feels like it was a mess. It feels like it was a group of writers really trying to make something fit that producers wanted to happen, because they were like, well, we should have him like use his Groundhog Day abilities to like break into a bit. Like the movie goes in a lot of places, you know, it's not just the battlefield, which I forgot. And it feels like they were really trying to make things work, and they just sort of, nothing really makes sense when you think about it for too long. Like none of, like why, like that transponder thing, it's nonsense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense why they're dealing with an alien life form that they don't understand. A scientist comes to them and he says, look, your top soldier says she was experiencing the same day over and over and over again. I think I figured out how the aliens are doing that. Here's a device that may be able to help us do it. It doesn't make sense why they wouldn't at least try it. It definitely doesn't make sense why they would demote him and make him a mechanic.
Yeah.
When he's like a biologist and fucking genius inventor.
I think I was too harsh saying it's a bad movie, because it's clearly well directed. It's very good. The visuals, the action scenes. It's just this. I couldn't get past. Once I started thinking about the script, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. There's a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, it's like Rise of Skywalker level nonsense, but I would argue Rise of Skywalker is a far less charismatic film.
Right,
like this,
Rise of Skywalker is all of those things, plus it's no fun to watch.
Exactly.
This movie at least has Tom Cruise being charming, Emily Blunt being charming, Bill Paxton being charming. It's fun.
Bill Paxton's fucking great.
Yeah, it's funny. Apparently, I'm doing some quick reading while we're recording this. Apparently, that was largely what McQuarrie was brought on to do. And McQuarrie...
Wait, just Bill Paxton?
No. The comedy.
Oh, okay. I was really hoping
it was just Bill
Paxton guy. Ralph McQuarrie walks into the room and he's like, I got it, guys. 2 words. Bill Paxton. And they're all like, yes, of course. Fuck.
Obviously, we need Bill Paxton in here.
Yeah. So he's the reason this movie is charming. Like, had he not been there, I think this movie would have been even... It would have been liked.
It probably wouldn't have worked out. Like they apparently Doug Liman discarded the last chunk of the original script, brought in somebody else to rewrite it, fired them, and then McQuarrie came on right as they were about to start shooting to do his draft, and he really focused on the comedy, and he came up with the ending that's in the movie. Wow. And he credits it as he thought of the movie as a comedy. So he's like, well, in a comedy, everything kind of resets at the end of the comedy. Like everything goes back to normal. So that's kind of along the lines of what he was thinking. And also,
that's incredible.
And also because he was thinking about the fact that like so much of this movie is fun and funny that if it ended harsh, people really wouldn't like it.
So I think this movie would have been incredible if they leaned into comedy more. If this was a straight up comedy, because he's right. Him thinking of the movie like a comedy, like it's Groundhog Day, because the middle chunk is the best part.
Yeah, the middle chunk is really funny. Like every time Tom Cruise dies and he lets out that little shriek.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
fucking
perfect. Good.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise can be very funny. He's surprisingly good at comedy when he's doing that. I think they should have leaned into comedy more. Like, I think that's probably what hurts it is like the weird, the world building and the like. It's trying to be a lot of things. It's trying to be a drama. It's trying to be a sci-fi. It's trying to be kind of intricate and explain all this lore. And it's funny. It's trying to be the broad adventure film. But man, if this was just a straight up comedy.
Or at
like
least
they didn't even hide that fact,
right? Or at least even more funny than it is.
Yeah, that would be incredible. But I think that speaks to, I guess, the problem with the script is you're saying McQuarrie was brought on and basically started writing a different type of film than what had already been written. I feel like
correct.
Yeah, and Doug Liman, I like him too. these are all people I like making this movie, but I think people had different ideas from each other.
Reading the journey of the screenplay, I think the fact that it is Doug Liman, it's Christopher McQuarrie, it's Tom Cruise, the fact that, Emily Blunt and Bill Paxton, the fact that it is so many people that are good at what they do is the reason this movie is not just a shit show. Because reading about the journey of the script, that's the journey of a shit show.
Yeah, it is.
Like, if any of these people weren't really good at what they did, this movie not only would it, it would have bombed and nobody would have liked it at all.
It's a hell of a juggling act, so you need really good jugglers.
Exactly.
You know what would have been really cool? I thought of this while watching. They talk about how there's the alphas, and if they die, then the day starts over. How cool would have it been, and this could have explained the ending more, is if in that final scene they kill an alpha, and it cuts to that alpha waking up again, and we follow the alpha's day, and it has a shitty. It's like its buddies are mean to it or something, or it doesn't have to actually be that, but you know what I mean. And then you could learn maybe they have a plan that we didn't know about, and that's why time gets reversed. Because you could argue something like, since there was a temporal rift where he died but had the goo in him at the same time, but the Omega died, which is also creating that link, that repeat. There was a glitch, and he glitched out, and that's why that happened. You could argue something like that about the ending. That it's like a time glitch. So they still died, but then they died over here in time, and he died. It's weird that they're all kind of so close to each other. That's a way to make the ending make sense. But it would have been neat to see it from the aliens' perspective more, to know kind of what they're doing. But I guess they're a hive mind, so there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's not much there, and it takes away some of the stakes of the movie, which is that they're trying to figure out how to beat this thing, and then where the thing is, and then they keep getting hit with setbacks. Oh no, it was tricking us. It was sending those visions. It's just gaslighting us with these visions.
Yeah, the visions were weird because they never meant anything. The visions were red herring.
Yeah, they were a misdirect. No, it's not that they didn't mean anything. It was the Omega deliberately misleading them.
Right. No, they start it as you get these visions when you're closer to the Omega.
Yeah.
And you think that's the rule, and then It turns out, no, it's just the Omega blasting things at your head.
Yeah, it's just the Omega being a real troll.
I don't think there was stakes at the end. Well, there was, and then they're taken away. That's the problem.
That's I think the movie is generally good about balancing its stakes until that ending. The ending just takes it all away.
Yeah, but it's if Superman lost his powers, gets shot, and the bullet bounces off him, and he goes, I guess they're back.
Yeah.
It's that. It's what was the point?
You don't know it while you're watching it, though, is what I'm saying.
No, but yes. But since it's going to be taken away at the end anyway, I guess it could have pissed people off, but I think if they wanted to actually go into weird, heady sci-fi, it would have been kind of cool to switch perspectives suddenly. And then you see the day repeat for the alien facing Tom Cruise, and you learn why it might, in that process you learn, oh, this is why this glitch happens or something later.
I don't know that I would pursue an entire narrative thread, but it would definitely have been kind of cool and funny, particularly if they were leaning even more
into comedy.
To cut to a brief scene or sequence, a 2 or 3 minute sequence with one of the aliens, and you're just seeing it you can't understand it, but you're just seeing it get increasingly more frustrated as it keeps repeating its day and getting smoked by Tom Cruise.
If they did the montage where it wakes up, it gets killed, it wakes up, it gets killed, wakes up, it gets killed, and then finally avoids it, and then they cut back to Tom Cruise, and he's like, oh shit. It knows what's happening. So we get to quickly see it from the alien's perspective of what that process was. Because it is what the aliens are going through. They're just repeating the same day over and over until they get it right.
The big blue ones, yeah.
Yeah. Which, do you think the aliens do you think the aliens they get a pizza and the pizza guy's enjoy the pizza, and they're you too, and they're shit. And then they kill themselves and retry it again when they don't say something stupid. Like they're real perfectionists.
Yeah,
they get everything.
Can't live with that embarrassment, man.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that's really interesting about the script writing.
Yeah, like in any other circumstance, were all of these, like, were it not such a pool of talented people, like this would have been, you know, a Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, because I think that people, I encourage people to rewatch this film if they're interested and pay attention to the script side of it. It's nonsense. I think it's nonsense from beginning to end, and you don't notice that. Like this is why I'm glad Lef was like told us to rewatch this, because watching it again and like getting kind of like focused on that. I think I would have never realized that, because I remember this movie as being very good with a bad ending, and I didn't even remember what the ending was. Like, it was just
Same.
my memory of this movie. Yeah, my memory of this movie was like, oh, I liked that movie. It had a kind of a bad ending, but it was fine.
Same, and I couldn't remember the ending.
Right, and now remembering the ending, I'm like, wow, that's a really bad ending.
It's a really bad ending. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It goes against everything the film is doing up until that point.
But the rest of the movies, like, I still, like, even after this discussion and conceding that you're absolutely right about a lot of the, like, this movie's full of holes, it does not diminish my enjoyment of this movie. I still really like this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that's in part because these guys are pros. Tom Cruise is a pro. It's this director, Doug Liman, is a fucking pro. Mm-hmm. Like they carry this film. And Emily Blunt, of course.
Yeah,
like
they
all carry this film so well. Brendan Gleeson's in there. I mean, Brendan Gleeson. Like it feels like really talented people who did their homework on the school bus on the way to school. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where it doesn't quite feel like they've nailed the script.
No.
And they're doing what they can with it. And in the end, they did a very good job.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah. I'm looking up what the other writers did. Oh, they did Birthday Girl. Remember Birthday Girl?
No.
It's a 2001 thriller. Oh, you've been all up in thrillers, so you should watch this. With Vincent Cassel and Nicole Kidman as a mail order bride.
Nope, got nothing.
Oh yeah,
no,
you gotta
no
see
memory
Birthday
of
Girl.
this film.
You gotta see Birthday Girl, Tom. It was made in 2001, and it feels like it's from 1994. Like it's that kind of thriller.
Tremendous.
Where it's like a sexy thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that movie. This person went on to write Edge of Tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, and he directed Birthday Girl.
Oh, how nice for him.
Also, his name is Jez Butterworth.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think even though he wrote this movie and I didn't like this movie, I think I'm his biggest fan right now.
Just based on Jez Butterworth, just on that name?
And Birthday Girl.
I mean, that's fair.
Oh, he also wrote Spectre, so that's something. He's just unfolding before my eyes right now. I feel like I dominated this by talking about what I didn't like about it. Do you have things you specifically wanted to talk about, or things you liked about it?
Well, yeah, like I said, I think this movie is it's fun. I like the way it unfolds. I like the apart from the plot holes, but I like seeing like each goal sort of be like they keep moving the goalposts, and you're like, you're frustrated along with the characters. I think it's really effective in that way.
I think the broad strokes are really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an incredibly enjoyable watch. It's fun. Like it hits the appropriate emotional beats when it needs to.
Right.
Like when they're in the farmhouse and he's sort of forced to reveal that it's like, look, we've been here hundreds of times and you never never make it out of here no matter what we do. And
you know what?
I don't know. I think every individual sequence of this movie is really good. It's just there are a lot of holes in the plot. Just in terms of the logic of how characters outside of our core cast behave.
I think getting to each part is, the flimsy part. The scenes themselves are solid when they break into the Brendan Gleeson's office. Like, it's a good scene.
It's a good scene, yeah.
Like, all the scenes are good. It's when characters have to explain why they're getting from that scene to the next. Mm-hmm. It's all nonsense, I feel like.
Yeah, but this is the kind of movie, and it's weird. I don't know. It's entirely subjective when you are willing to forgive a movie or not. But because the scenes are so good and because the movie is actually an enjoyable experience, I can forgive the fact that the threads that connect many of the elements of the movie together are incredibly flimsy and don't make much logical sense. I'm fine. I can forgive that because it's just like, well, I'm enjoying this too much. And I like the two characters too much. And what,
right.
Like that, the stuff that happens between them is consistent and is following a consistent thread, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, we keep mentioning Rise of Skywalker. I don't forgive the gibberish of that movie's plot because the movie's not actually any fun to watch.
Yes.
So,
I didn't write in my notes. I finally wrote in my notes, I think this is a bad movie when the ending happened. Because up into the ending, I was able to forgive it while being very aware of it. Mm-hmm. It was the ending that drove it home for me personally, when I was like, okay. Like, that was what did it in for me. You're right, though. It's very charismatic. It's definitely not Rise of Skywalker. It's a much better movie.
Right. If this had any other, possibly any other mixture of talent behind the scenes and also in the movie, mm-hmm. It's entirely possible that it wouldn't have worked.
I also think if it was funnier, I would have forgiven that more too, because I think it presents itself as kind of a heady sci-fi. It gives
to a
off
degree.
that,
to a degree, it doesn't really labor on this stuff.
You saying now that Ralph, that Christopher McQuarrie wrote it as a comedy. It makes me want to rewatch it, thinking of it like a comedy. Mm-hmm. But they still they lean too much on the heady sci-fi. You expect that kind of because of the premise, because how serious it takes itself, and a lot of the moment there's action, it's very serious.
Yes, yeah.
It's not supposed to take place. It's not like, it's a weird comparison. It's not like Evolution, where everybody's very silly. The science in Evolution is bullshit. That movie has problems for other things, but you don't nitpick the science. You don't focus on the science in that movie because it's a dumb comedy. This didn't get that leeway because it wasn't leaning into comedy so much that I wasn't thinking about why the things were happening.
Yeah, but I wasn't nitpicking the science in this either. Like, I didn't stop to think, well, how do those suits work? I don't give a shit.
Right. Well, I guess it's not the science, though. It's the logic. It's the character logic. It's the why did people do these things. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd almost accept, like, a throwaway comedy for why they did the things or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it was just a little too much for me because it was trying to be a little serious or grounded.
I think it's trying to be largely grounded. It's not like a screwball comedy that takes place in a different universe. Like it's supposed to be a grounded movie.
I think it should have been more screwball. I think it should have been a little sillier. But then you run into making like Night and Day, and no one wants to watch Night and Day.
Night and Day is a bad film.
Yeah. That movie, have you seen that movie? I fell asleep during it.
Yes, I have seen that movie. That's how I was able to state that it was a bad one.
Well, I'm not sure I've seen it. I put it in a DVD player, and I remember credits. I don't remember much between those two moments because it was like... that's a bad movie.
It's very bad, yeah. It was a Redbox rental for me, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a solid Redbox rental. Mm-hmm. That you regret still.
Oh, I didn't regret it. Yeah. It's $1, and it gave me something to do that evening. But I was like, when I got to the end of it, like, I don't remember much. I remember the plane crash sequence. I remember Peter Sarsgaard's the bad guy, and he explodes in the end.
Right.
But yeah, I got to the end of it. I was like, "Ooh, that was a bad movie. I'm gonna go on with my life." Like, and then I just went on with my life.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I still think like if I had $1, I'd sooner swallow the quarters and like have an adventure that way than watch Night and Day.
I think I'd probably watch Night and Day rather than swallow a handful of quarters.
Right, fair enough.
I mean,
look, difference of opinions.
Yeah.
They should put that should be their poll quote for Night and Day.
Yep. It's better than swallowing a handful of quarters.
Yeah. Forget where we were on this. Bill Paxton's great.
Bill Paxton's incredible in this. Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson, I would have could have been more of him. Oh, that was my final thing. And this movie isn't the movie to do this in.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting to do it in this movie, but this would have been. I kind of want to see a story like this from Emily Blunt's character. I want to see a Groundhog Day movie, but it only takes place in the last day. So, and the main character isn't the one who's experiencing the time loop.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, like, there's almost like a maybe they're out of their mind element where it's like you're trusting them, but because they know so much. Because I've always thought it would be a fun prank to try to convince your friends that you've been Groundhog Day'd.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be very hard to do. You'd have to have a lot of money. You'd have to have total control over the environment, pay actors. It'd be like an Improv Anywhere sketch.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting version of this premise because people are doing it a lot. I haven't seen Palm Springs yet, but that sounds like it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I still really like this movie, even after this conversation. Like, this is...
Oh, I didn't think I'd be convinced you that it's bad.
Like,
and by the way, like...
Go ahead.
Oh, when I said to myself, I think this is a bad movie, I said it like, wow, because it is charismatic. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, but I think fundamentally, it's the writing is, it's a bad movie. It's a badly written movie.
Right. To me, it's like a really, really catchy song with bad lyrics.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't care.
It's like Andrew WK when then you like, you ever read Andrew WK lyrics?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, wait, is the song It's Time to Party about masturbation? And then you read the lyrics more and you're like, I think it is. Where it's like he just tricked a bunch of bros into singing really fucking weird things.
Yeah. He doesn't give a fuck.
He doesn't give a fuck.
He's going to beat the shit out of that piano and have a good time.
Yeah, he is. I've been to, I think, 2 Andrew WK shows. Which is probably too many.
I don't know. I don't know if I would say. I don't know that I would say that.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah.
They were good shows.
I would have expected them to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, The Edge of Tomorrow. It's like an Andrew WK song.
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Lef, thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for getting me to watch this movie again.
Yeah. Lef did this through our Patreon. If you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. We have a tier where you can make us watch movies, and then we'll review them, and we'll say if we like them or we don't like them, and we'll talk about them.
Yeah, we'll spend nearly an hour, perhaps more, talking about what we feel about the film.
You can listen in delight in it. You can listen in the dark.
Yeah.
In a chair.
Yeah. On a plane. On a train.
On a plane. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should we just start? Should we go through all the places they can listen?
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't do that at all.
Okay.
I'm not interested in doing that.